Okay, so this video is for the DoD stuff on a newer Gen 5 LT GM engine. This one in particular is a 6.2. So you think, you have your mechanical plugs in the valleys here, or in the oil towers, you have your DoD camshaft. So you're good to go, right? Well, you're probably overlooking one thing. So right here is your oil feed hole. And if you're reusing the factory Vlom Valley cover that has all these solenoids, which a lot of people do because the aftermarket ones, they're still $200, $300. Like the LS version, China's done its thing and copied, and you can get these for $30 on eBay with the gasket and everything. So there's no oil passage in this. You just have the O-ring here for the oil pressure sensor, and that's it. With these, you still have the solenoids in here. So even though you have those towers blocked off on the block, this right here is your oil feed hole that I pointed out on the block. And it comes up here, and this is your oil pressure sensor, and then you can see this passage here is for oil to get to all these solenoids. And here's something a lot of people don't understand. You can see so these things leak. That's one of the reasons these DoD lifters go out, with a bunch of other problems. But if you do not block off oil to these, they're going to leak. Sometimes it's not a big deal. Other times it can be pretty significant, and you'll get low oil pressure. So there's one guy here, I think also in South Dakota, that you take this screw out, and it's just a little aluminum sleeve that you slide in there, and it blocks this passage off but leaves these two open. So that works. They're $15 probably plus shipping, and I'm here to kind of show you where you can get around that. So one way is if you have a TIG welder, you can just notch this and throw a bead in there to block off both sides. You're good. Not everyone has a TIG welder. So the other option is to come in the bottom here and just drill and tap a plug. So as you can see, there's these rivets that hold this aluminum plate on, and then there's, looks like these are crimped together, and here's your electrical harness. So I think what my process is going to be is just to try to pull this off, and then I might either just cut right here to get access to that passage, so I don't have to pull all of these off to pull the actual solenoids out. But we'll see how that goes, because these are pressed in, so that it's not, it's a permanent setup, so you have to do some cutting and grinding to get them off. So that's where I'm going to start. But first, you want to pull your pressure sensor out, because these are pretty sensitive to impacts and banging around. So pull that out first, you put it in later. So we'll see what I can find here. Alright, so my first step here is I'm just taking these cutters, crimpers. I'm just rotating the wires out. Don't need to worry about these because they're going to be unplugged, and the codes will be deleted, so you won't need to worry about the computer not seeing these. The only thing you'll need to worry about is if they're going to be dropping any little pieces into your engine if they're taken apart like this. So we'll check that out. But there we go. So now there's just a connector here. I'm going to pick and take that out. Maybe, I'm not sure how easy they make these to take apart. Seems so they're a permanent setup, but looks like this one's, let me get a 90 pick. It's never the first one you grab. Okay, so that just lifts up there. Alright, so now we got our harness off there. And all of this stuff looks like it's solid. Nothing's going to be dropping in there. So we're good there. I think what I might do is just grab my grinder and slice this off, and then everything else can stay in here. Maybe I'll take this manifold off real quick. I'm not sure what size that is. It's probably a small metric that I don't have handy. So we'll take that off real quick. Alright, it's a 7 mil. Oh, okay. Looks like I missed something here. So that's O-ring. It's just a manifold that actually... Oh, this is actually the PVC vent. So you can see that port there goes here. So good thing I didn't break that, because I actually will need to reuse it. I don't know if you guys can see that. So this part, jeez, I suck at videoing. So this part is actually like your PVC, or PCV, whatever. And this port here goes up here, and that's for your crankcase vent to your valve covers. So we will need to reuse that. So don't break this when you take it off. But now I think I'm just going to cut that with the grinder and see what I can do, hopefully, because I really don't want to pull all these off. Okay, this connector is kind of in the way. So you just have these little tangs that you just pop in and then push it out that way. So what I'm going to do, sorry, I'm just going to cover this up. Get some shavings avoiding this. I'm just going to slice it here. Battery's dying. Alright, so I got through that. Now I just need to cut this gasket. That's it. Alright. Yahtzee. Hope you guys could see that. So that's what we're after right there. So I'm not sure what size plug will fit in there, but I think I'm just going to drill and tap that. Or I can throw a bead on it. I do have a TIG welder, but kind of making this so people that don't have access to a TIG welder can just grind that piece off and drill and tap, or get a cut plug and pound it in there. But I'll see what kind of tap fits in there so we know. Okay, I just grabbed some taps, and this 1/4 inch by 20 fits in there pretty well. It's the hole's a little bit bigger than the drill you would use to drill before you tap, but it's not going to see a whole lot of tension on it pulling it out. So I think if the threads aren't quite as deep, that's fine. We just need something to thread in there to plug. So I did make another little cut here with the grinder to kind of get that shoulder off I left, so I can get the tap in here. And then also you can't get the normal tap handle on there, so I just grabbed this little 12-point socket that fits on the end here so I can drive her in there. So my plan is I'm just going to tap it in there, maybe like a 1/4 inch, enough to get a good amount in there. And then that way I can, you know, you don't want to do it 4 inches and end up threading it into the hole there. So I just want it kind of somewhere in there a little bit to stop the oil flow. So that's what I'm going to do now. Yep, it's just cutting like gravy. Those threads are not that deep. Normally you'd want to go a little bit and then back off, go a little bit, back off, but this is barely cutting anything. So should be enough to plug. But yeah, we got a decent amount of shavings on that, so I think the threads will be just deep enough. And if you're a metric guy, this hole is also very close to a 6mm hole if you're into that sort of deal. So yeah, I'm just gonna grab a 1/4" bolt now, and I think I'll do some modifying to that. I'll show you here. All right, here's what I did. Very precise machining, as you can tell. Just took this bolt, threaded it in there, and kind of got a gauge on how far my threads went in, so I could actually bottom this guy out. I just cut it to that length of the threads, and then just took my grinder and cut a slot for a flathead screwdriver to drive it in there. So I'll grab some Loctite and throw it in there. I'll show you also. I'm going to do a mechanical. I'm just going to punch the back here so it can never back out once it's in there, and call it good. All right, here we go. Yeah, a little loosey-goosey in there, but might be a smaller screwdriver to get it in the rest of the way. I want to go a little bit more so there's a little lip I can stake. Here we go. Yeah, I think that's good. Now I'll just get my hammer here and chisel. And oh yeah, that baby ain't going nowhere. So that's not going to back out. I mean, I doubt it would ever have a reason to go up in there farther, but if it does, it's not going to hurt anything. And then before I did thread that in there, I took some brake cleaner and shot it in here and here and blocked this hole and put the air hose on this end and blew everything out. Not that it matters. I mean, the only thing it's going to do is have shavings up in your oil pressure sensor. I guess maybe it could come back out and go down this into your engine, but you're having pressure feed through this hole, so it's not really that big of a deal. So I think yeah, I'll spray this down and kind of clean it up, and then get a new gasket and throw it back on. And that's how you do a basically free DoD block off on this Vlom here without having to buy a whole new $200 one, or you know, the sleeve, which, you know, that guy's cool. He has a lot of great information. I can't remember his name. I'll try to link it in the description here. But this is just something if you forget to order stuff in advance, or you just don't want to pay a 14, 15, 20 bucks for something, you can do this basically for free if you have the tools. And then also, you know, if you didn't even have the tap or whatever, you could go to, you know, like your local auto parts store, and they have cut plugs in assortments, and this is I think it's about a 1/4" hole roughly, a little bit less than. So if you can get a cut plug that fits that, you can probably hammer it in there. So okay, here she is, ready to be installed. Don't forget to put this back on. These bolts are 7mm. I did Loctite them just because they are upside down and they're small, so you can't put a ton of torque on them. Not sure what the spec is. I just use this guy. It always knows what the torque specs are. And then put this guy back in. It is indexed here, these two tabs. Just make sure you do that. And I didn't bother cutting this off because those tabs are pretty close that lock it in. Put your oil pressure sensor back on. And then one other thing, when you do the mechanical on these are from Texas Speed. So these have a little ridge on them, and you need to make sure that this plate sets down because they will be interlocking into these. And so you might have to shimmy it a little bit to get it to sit flush, and then these guys should be 18 foot-pounds, if I remember right, for bolts these size. And then they do have the plastic alignment deals on them that these LT engines have. So yeah, that's all there is to it.